Welcome back to the deep dive. We're starting today with a genuinely fascinating paradox, and it really challenges how we all operate both professionally and, personally.
Hmm.
In a world that is just obsessed with expertise, with having immediate answers, what if the greatest strength you have is just admitting, I don't know?
And that's really the heart of what we're getting into today. Our deep dive is based on Alfonso Borello's work, I Have No Idea, The Power of Not Knowing.
Right.
And our mission really is to dismantle this myth that uncertainty is the same as weakness. We want to pull out the blueprint for how you can use strategic ignorance as a real asset.
And before we get into the strategy, Borello makes a quick but I think a really important point about the language.
He does. He says that when you say, I don't know, that's usually just a straightforward admission. You're just missing some data.
Okay.
But I have no idea that.
Yeah.
That one conveys something deeper, a deeper level of unawareness. And it often has this emotional hint to it, surprise maybe, or humility.
I see. So it acknowledges the complexity of the question itself.
Exactly. We'll be using both, but the main idea is being comfortable with your own limitations.
Okay, so let's start with what the author calls the tyranny of knowing. It's this constant pressure to have an answer on the spot. We've all felt it. But where does that come from?
Well, Borello traces it. He traces it back thousands of years. You think of figures like Socrates or Confucius. They emphasized wisdom, they equated knowledge with power.
Sure, which makes sense.
But over time, that's kind of morphed. It's gone from seeking wisdom to just demanding instant verifiable facts. Certainty has become the same as competence.
And our modern systems seem built to just reinforce that, don't they?
Oh, absolutely. Think about modern education. Standardized tests, what do they reward? Rote memorization and immediate recall.
The right answer, right now.
Exactly. If you pause, you should really think about it, you risk falling behind. The system doesn't reward critical thinking as much as it rewards the speed of being right.
So what's the actual cost of living under that kind of pressure, that constant need to seem like you know everything?
The cost is huge.
Yeah.
Mentally, it leads straight to anxiety, burnout, imposter syndrome.
Of course.
But professionally, and this is critical, it stifles creativity. It kills innovation. Because if you only think inside the box of what you already know, you're never going to explore anything new.
That makes perfect sense. If you're too afraid to admit you don't know how to solve a problem, you'll never look for a solution outside of what you've already tried.
Precisely. And it hurts relationships, too. It builds these walls of false certainty. So we have to flip the script. The real liberation comes from admitting you don't know. It's a sign of humility, and it's a catalyst for learning and for taking smart risks.
It sounds like it's a shift from one person needing the answer to a shared responsibility for finding the best way forward.
It is. And to get there, we have to move past this binary thinking, right or wrong, yes or no.
Right. The world is much more complex than that.
It is. And that pressure for a quick, certain answer forces us into these premature choices. Saying, I have no idea, isn't giving up. It's a doorway to embracing that ambiguity. It stops us from oversimplifying.
I love that idea, using the unknown as a catalyst. And that's a perfect lead-in to cultivating a growth mindset, which the sources say just thrives on the unknown.
It does. And it makes you more open to, well, to chance, to serendipity. So many huge innovations were born from chance discoveries, but only because the people involved weren't rigidly stuck on their original plan.
Let's talk about those classic examples he brings up, like penicillin or the Post-it note.
Right, the Post-it note is a perfect one. The inventor, Spencer Silver, he was trying to make a super strong adhesive for 3M. He failed.
Yeah.
Completely.
He made the opposite.
He made the exact opposite, a low-cac repositionable glue. Now, if he had been stuck in that mindset of failure is bad, he would have just thrown it out.
What he didn't.
He didn't. He was open to the unknown result, and that failure eventually became a billion-dollar product. His willingness to see that his original knowledge was incomplete, that's what led to the discovery.
That is strategic ignorance in action. But, okay, admitting you don't know can be risky. When do you actually use this? There has to be some art to the timing.
Oh, definitely. It's all about reading the room. Context is everything. In a brainstorming session, saying, I don't know is great. It encourages everyone to contribute.
But maybe not in a high-stakes negotiation.
Exactly. In that situation, it could undermine your authority unless, and this is the really crucial part, you follow it up immediately with a proactive plan.
Okay, so let's talk about the highest stakes context, what the author calls the crisis of the unknown. This is where collective ignorance is actually a strength.
It is. In a true crisis, a disaster response, a national security threat, individual experts working alone can be destructive. Openly admitting we don't know breaks down those silos.
It forces collaboration.
Instantly. Everyone admits they only have one piece of the puzzle, so they have to work together to find a solution.
The book gives a really powerful military example of this, the development of Israel's Iron Dome.
It's a perfect case study. When the threat of short-range rockets emerged, there was no technology that could stop them affordably. The technical hurdle was massive.
So they had to start from scratch.
They had to. Instead of trying to force an old solution, the leadership just admitted, we have no idea how to do this with current tech. And that admission allowed them to pull ideas from totally different fields.
Not just rocket science.
No, not just rocket physics, but advanced software, logistics, even video game processing technology.
Wow. So the whole system was built on acknowledging that they didn't know. That humility is what let them connect the dots between all these different disciplines.
That humility and that honesty, that's the starting point. It changes the question from who has the answer to what expertise do we need to find it.
So now we get to the other side of the coin. Once you've said, I don't know, that can't be the end of the sentence.
No, the BUT is the critical part. It's what turns a passive admission into an active, solution-focused commitment.
The BUT shows you're resourceful.
Exactly. It shows you're in control of the situation. You're not just giving up, you're managing the unknown with confidence.
The source gives a great matrix of examples. Let's run through them. For instance, in a job interview.
Okay, so you're asked about some niche software you've never used. The wrong answer is to pretend. The strategic answer is, I'm not familiar with that system, but I'm a fast learner, and I'll research it tonight so we can discuss it more in our next conversation.
Honesty plus initiative. I like that. What about in a team meeting when you're put on the spot for a number?
There, it's about commitment, you say. I don't know the precise answer right now, but I'll reach out to the right department and I'll have a full update for everyone by the end of the day.
The specific deadline is key there.
It's everything. It replaces the uncertainty with a concrete plan. You maintain your credibility.
And it's the same for a client call, right? If a salesperson gets a technical question they can't answer.
Yep. The goal is to show responsiveness. I don't have that technical detail handy, but I will check with our engineering team and get back to you with the full specs this afternoon. In every case, the BUT is the promise that turns the unknown into a task you own.
Let's move into even higher stakes situations. How this plays out across the corporate ladder, because the meaning of I don't know must change depending on your title.
It really does. For an intern, saying it shows you're eager to learn. For a CEO, it's more complex. When a CEO says, I don't know how to solve this alone, it can actually build trust and collaboration.
Okay, but hold on. If a CEO says, I don't know too often, doesn't that risk eroding confidence? Where's the line?
That's a great question. The line is that the admission has to be paired with process. A CEO can't say, I don't know our company's mission.
Right.
But they can say, I don't know the best strategy to enter this new market. But I know we have the talent to figure it out, and here's the team we're putting on it. It shows humility, trust in the team, and good management.
So it's about managing the journey, not already knowing the destination.
Perfect way to put it.
And what about impersonal relationships? That's an inherently sensitive context.
Oh, it's vital there. In a conflict, the pressure to be right is what makes things escalate. If you can genuinely say, you know what, I don't know what you need from me right now, or I don't know how we fix this, it diffuses everything.
It shifts the goal from winning to understanding.
You stop fighting and you start exploring together.
Let's pivot to the highest stakes setting of all, legal matters. In that world, I don't know becomes a tool for self-protection.
Absolutely. In a legal setting, every single word matters. Saying I don't know is a shield. It stops you from guessing or speculating under pressure, which could be disastrous. It protects your credibility.
And the source makes a really interesting point about public defenders.
It does. Their expertise isn't just the law and books, it's the local landscape. They know the tendencies of the judges, the prosecutors, so they might admit ignorance on some obscure precedent. But they use their deep knowledge of the system to build the strategy.
That's fascinating. That expertise is rooted in knowing the practical unknowns. And speaking of nuance, this brings us to a concept the author calls quantum consciousness.
Right. And this is less about literal physics and more of a thought model for making complex decisions.
Mental model. Okay.
Imagine you're asked a critical question. The theory is that your mind enters a state of superposition, where all the potential answers exist at once. If you rush to an answer, you miss. You prematurely collapse that wave into a single and maybe a bad response.
So that pause, what he calls the quantum pause, is where the good decision-making happens.
It is. By sitting in that I don't know phase for a moment, you're allowing your deeper consciousness to process all the different possibilities before you commit to one.
The author uses a political example for this. Nation A trying to decide whether to annex territory B with force or diplomacy.
Exactly. A binary choice is force or diplomacy. But in that, I don't know, pause, a leader isn't just weighing A or B. They're navigating this whole web of other possibilities
Yeah.
like forming an alliance or offering protection or even just doing nothing and building up their own defenses.
That reflection time, that period of admitted uncertainty, is what allows for a truly nuanced choice.
Right. It reminds us that the best answers to big questions almost never come from immediate certainty.
Which brings us to the final and maybe the most important step. Once you admit you don't know, the next move is to start asking questions.
Yes. That's how you turn a knowledge gap into a collaborative search for an answer.
The second you start defending what you don't know, you're free to ask what you need to know.
Precisely. And the book has two great case studies on this. First, a tech startup. The team lead, Alex, is facing this massive bug. No one can figure it out. Instead of faking it, he says, look, I have no idea why this keeps happening. But T, for those of you who've been deep in the code, why do you think it's appearing?
And that one question changes everything.
It unlocks the whole team. A junior dev suddenly has an idea about data sync timing, which leads to the solution. Alex turns a leadership crisis into a team win.
Wow. And the second scenario is even more high stakes. A novice interviewer, Emma, facing a really intimidating world leader.
Right, President Bornoff.
Oh.
She gets nervous, loses her place, and has to improvise.
So what does she do?
She leans into it. She says, Mr. President, I don't know all the answers about the complexities you face. Can you help me understand your vision?
She uses her vulnerability as a tool.
And it completely disarms him. It changes the whole dynamic from adversarial to educational. She gets a much more honest, revealing interview than she ever would have otherwise.
So when you look at all of this, the journey of embracing the unknown seems to be about humility, curiosity, and the joy of discovery, really.
That's it. Not knowing isn't a failure. It's an invitation to learn.
It's the roadmap for lifelong learning.
It is. And the author's advice for you, the listener, is really practical. Cultivate curiosity. Always ask why and what if. Embrace resilience so you can learn from your mistakes. And just stay adaptable.
To wrap this all up, Borello suggests that the unknown isn't something we should fear. It should be embraced because within it lies the endless potential for transformation and discovery. It's the space where growth actually happens.
And that potential comes from retraining your brain to move past those quick, easy answers, what Daniel Kahneman calls System 1 thinking in his book Thinking, Fast and Slow. For anyone who wants to get better at navigating the unknown, the author also highly recommends the online course, Learning How to Learn. Keep asking questions, keep exploring.